to start off with are just some general best practices in remote learning for college success. Now, I know that you might be a little bit anxious about classes either continuing to be online, maybe you're online for the first time this semester. However your school is approaching learning at these times, I know it can be maybe frustrating, little anxiety inducing. But I will say that I think even with things being online or remote, there are plenty of positives and plenty that you can do to still make the class very effective. My first kind of tip to make you kind of feel a little better is, especially now, it's very likely that your students are going to take some sort of online class throughout their time in college, and or they will be asked to use some sort of online platform in their future classes. So what better place for students to get practice using these types of resources than in their first semester course? You all are actually given a great opportunity to set them up for true success during their time throughout college and, quite frankly, even beyond. I'm pretty sure Zoom meetings are not going to go away. So, getting some practice in on that is excellent. When I taught my freshman experience class at the school I was teaching at, it was actually called digital literacy. Every first year student had to take it, regardless of if they were an online or an on-campus student. And what we actually primarily focused on in there was how to use digital resources that they would need during their time at school, such as emailing and chatting instructors and, the proper etiquette for doing that, and also how to conduct research online and walking through digital databases. And so that's kind of what I mean by this first bullet point here in practice using online tools and digital resources. As I said a minute ago, these are things that they're going to be using for the next 4 years and possibly beyond. Why not get them using it now? Even if it's something that you don't necessarily want to have a large focus on, emphasize the practice. We all need a little bit of grace here. Maybe don't make it a high stakes exercise, but give students the chance to explore what's out there and figure out how to use it. I also recommend using a lot of video. This is something that I made huge use of, especially in my public speaking class. Of course, videos can be used as great discussion off points. Finding various videos on different topics, or again, any sort of different online resource can always be great to share with your students. And in fact, one thing that I always used to like to have my students do was what I called the digital scavenger hunt, where they were actually tasked with going out and finding a video on X topic. I typically use it in my public speaking class, hey, go find an example of a persuasive speech, or find a commercial that demonstrates this concept. You could certainly turn that into something for your class as well. Find a video of someone sharing reading tips, of sharing note-taking tips, studying tips, something like that, and then bring everyone all back together. I also like the idea of low-stakes quizzing. It can be kind of tricky to ensure, total privacy and total accuracy with online test taking. You never totally know what students are going to have access to. You never know if they'll have books open, whatever it may be. So I say, turn quizzing on its head. Rather than having it be, an end-all be-all final exam or something like that, maybe focus on some sort of lower stakes quizzing. You can also utilize student polling features. This is going to be especially great for anyone doing a synchronous Zoom class. And we're going to hear a little bit more about some specifics with that in a little bit. And I also like to make sure that you take advantage of what's available in your school's learning management system. So if you're using Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, while they may not provide you with any specific content, there are a lot of great tools in there to use. So my actual number one piece of advice is just don't be afraid to click around and test some things out. Again, have some grace. We're not expecting perfection here. So even if you just try something out and it crashes and burns, okay, you've learned something, your students have learned something. That all being said, All of these ideas certainly could work on their own, but what I would like to especially point out today is that Macmillan can help you do all of these things within our LaunchPad platform. And so what I want to go ahead and do now is actually take a live look at our LaunchPad platform. We'll start off with just kind of a broad overview of the functionality, and then we will take a look at the specific resources in here. I'm in particular looking at LaunchPad for our newest edition of Gardener Your College Experience. This just published days ago. So it is the best, most up-to-date resource for your students. LaunchPad, of course, is just what we call our online platform that goes along with our textbooks. And as I scroll down here, you can see just how intertwined it is with the text. Everything is divided up by chapters. So any chapter you'd like to see what kind of resources we have, simply click on the chapter itself, and it will open up to reveal the contents we have for that particular chapter. Everything is conveniently tagged with these little green parentheses, so you know exactly what type of activity it is that you could assign to your students. Anything you want to preview, simply click on the activity itself. It will open up, and from here, you're allowed to kind of work through the activity as if you were a student. In this case, this is one of our self-assessment quizzes. So students just kind of reflect on themselves and how they would, respond to these questions. Clicking the home button will take you back to that main page. And one thing I wanted to show real quickly is if you decide that you want to assign any activities in here, it is super simple to do so. Notice how we get this little assign button that pops up as we hover over any activities in here. Let's say that I do want to assign this self-assessment for a grade. I click assign. From here, I can pick a due date and assign a point value. I click assign, and then you'll notice that that chapter jumped to the top of the table of contents here. I can see now that this assignment has this blue to do button next to it. So when my students come in here, they're going to know that that's what they need to work on when they come into LaunchPad. And that being said, we do also offer what we call deep integration with Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, and Moodle. So you could even set up a direct link to these activities in your learning management system. And then not only do students have a seamless way to access these resources, but you can also have the grades transfer back into your LMS gradebook. I don't want to get too much into that right now, but I'm happy to discuss that more towards the end of the call if anyone's interested. I do also like to point out that we do have some additional resources down at the bottom of the table of contents, and these just kind of go beyond whatever we have for the textbook. For example, every class in here, or I should say every LaunchPad will have our COVID-19 student toolkit. And so this just provides you as the instructor with some specific resources, some additional readings for students, just to kind of help guide them through this very difficult time. And we also have a quiz self-assessment activity for them to work on as well. What I want to take a look at next are now the actual resources that are available to assign within LaunchPad. Of course, you can click through chapter by chapter here. And I will say from title to title, we do have many similar types of assignments. Of course, the content itself will vary from book to book, but they will be the same types of activities. But additionally, some LaunchPad products have their own text-specific activities. Because of this, I think the best way to browse the resources is to come over to this gray menu on the left-hand side and click on the button that says Resources. From here, you'll get a little pop-up window over on the right, and you can click on Content by Type. And this is going to give you a nice broad overview of everything that we have available in here to assign to your students. You can see we've got them divided up into student resources. So these are all activities that you can assign to your students. And then anything under instructor are going to be by default for your eyes only. We include iClicker slides, an instructor resource manual, downloadable PowerPoint slides. We label them lecture slides in here, and we have some additional podcasts that you can listen to as well. Where I want to spend most of our time on, though, are some of the student activities. I do like to point out that many of our LaunchPads do have a full ebook built in. So this can be great, again, if you're online in the spring and students aren't going to be able to get to the bookstore to purchase a physical book, know that they can do their reading in LaunchPad. And we also have a downloadable offline ebook, again, in the books, in the titles that do have the full LaunchPad with the ebook built in.